For students who do not make it into a selective school or got into one but is looking to get into an even better one academically, they need to apply to transfer in years 7 to 10. You can do the test in year 7 to gain entry in year 8 and so forth. Most selective schools will have their own unique application process, but many will involve a test such as the HAST exam, as well as requiring supporting documentation such as school reports, among other things. With the application opening up early next month, in an exam that is even more competitive than the one in year 6, it is so important for students and parents to know how to prepare for it accordingly if they want to maximize their chances. Let's get into it. First of all, I'm going to assume that you have already watched my first video on the HAST test in terms of transferring into a selective school and doing that exam for years 8 to 11. If you have not, definitely pause this video and watch that first as I go into the exam components that many selective high schools that have the HAST exam will require. And I think what students need to prepare for it, I break down into lots of detail. I also go through some of my strategy in terms of preparation for this exam and what you need to do. We know that students want to transfer into a selective school as the advantage of being in a highly academic school is beneficial when doing the HSC. The large proportion of marks coming from the students in your actual cohort in the actual subject that you're doing. The better the school you go to, generally, the better the ATAR you can have, so you have more options for university. If your ATAR is too low, you are locked out of certain professions if you want to do that in university. You cannot just be a doctor if you want to be a doctor. If you do not score high enough, you cannot become a doctor, and so forth. As part of the application process for transferring into a selective school, it will also differ slightly depending on the school, so be sure to check out the specific enrollment conditions on the website of the school that you're intending to transfer into. Most partially selective schools will only require supporting documentation, while many fully selective high schools will require that alongside an exam. Certain schools will not have the HAST exam, but will have their own tailored exam, so keep that in mind. Although overall, nearly every selective school will require similar supporting documentation. This is because individual selective high schools manage their own placements for prospective new students and any reserve list that they might have to do, so they need the right information in order for them to make an informed decision. If they did not receive or require anything to base it off, they will only be basing it off where you live, which is not the case for selective schools as they are not bound by catchment areas, and instead they only choose people based on their academic ability and their potential to succeed well outside of class. In this particular video, I will focus on the second half being the supporting documentation and what will typically involve and how students can maximize their chances in this section. This section is arguably easier compared to the actual exam because it is over a period of time, such as a year and a half, rather than just doing a test on one day. If you did not do very well in that test that day, you will not do well. But for the supporting documentation, you can prepare and work hard across a year and a half, which is good for students who are actually prepared. This can benefit students who are consistent and are high performers, but will disadvantage students who may perform well on the actual day, but don't work well across a long period of time. So if they're not very well-rounded, they will not benefit from this. As I mentioned earlier, every school will also have their own unique process, but supporting documentation will generally include number 1, school reports, number 2, extracurricular activities, and number 3, academic achievements. And for these 3 segments, I will go through each component of what is required and how we recommend the students we teach to prepare for it, so you can also benefit from this as well. Every school will require school reports, so it is very important to not throw away these and instead stockpile and keep them in a safe place just in case you are looking to transfer into a selective school. You will typically need your current half-yearly report for the year as well as last year's half-yearly and yearly report. For example, if I was in year 9 at the moment, I will have to submit my year 9 half-yearly report as well as my 2 year 8 reports, being my half-yearly year 8 report as well as my yearly year 8 report as well. The school principals and examiners will be looking for how well you are performing in terms of your school across every subject that you are enrolled in. This is the part which is very critical and important for both students and parents to understand, because many people that I've spoken to believe that it is acceptable to just be good in English, maths, and science, and they can kind of forget about the rest of the subjects. Selective schools, however, are looking for the highest performing students, and they're looking for very well-rounded students who excel across every subject. As someone who transferred from Penrith to Girraween High School and had to apply 3 times in order to succeed, consistency is an area that I had to be very strong in. I had to ensure that my report was very competitive, and as a result, I had to ensure that I achieved an A in nearly every subject. Getting a C grade is not acceptable or good enough. You want to be getting mostly A's and only a B or 2 across every subject in your reports. This is especially important if you are not already in a selective school and are looking to transfer, because the assessments in your school, if you're not in a selective school, are not going to be as difficult compared to if you were an applicant who was already in a fully selective school or in a partially selective school. For example, an A at a low academic school may be viewed as equivalent to a B or even a C at a fully selective high school because of the much higher standard that is being taught there. A good rule of thumb is to make sure you're aiming for those A's in every subject, especially if the student is from a normal public school. Remember, the schools will be looking at your current pattern of study as well. So let's say that out of the 3 reports you have to submit as part of your application, which one can you do a little bit worse in? Hypothetically, of course, but ideally you do well in all of them. Have a guess. Is it going to be your current half-yearly report, last year's yearly report, or is it going to be last year's half-yearly report? I'll give you a few moments. Good. If you said your last year's half-yearly report, you are correct. That is because it indicates to schools and examiners that you're improving over time with your future reports. If your most recent report is the weakest out of the 3 reports that you have to submit, it will indicate that you are not improving over time, but you're actually getting worse over time academically, and you are not consistent. This leads on to the second part of the supporting documentation, being extracurricular activities. Depending on the school, they will typically require participation or excellence in terms of extracurricular. The former being easier to achieve, as you can just participate in more activities and obtain the benefits that way. For schools that are looking for excellence or achievements in terms of extracurricular activities, such as Parramatta High School, an excellent or achievement in terms of those will typically be tougher than just participation, as they are looking for an award or impact that you have done tangibly beyond just a participation. Some people often misunderstand what extracurricular activities are, and what I typically define this as is sports, competitions, community services in terms of volunteering, or the arts are just some of the examples of what may be involved in terms of extracurricular activities. Students and parents may think that this is the easiest section in terms of providing supplementary documentation. However, I constantly find students falling short on this area. Just recently, I've talked to a few different parents and students who have very bright kids and have amazing reports. However, they did not engage in anything outside of academics. When I asked them if they were part of the chess team, debating, or did any sports, it was quite clear that they were only focused on one thing only, and that is their grade and nothing else. This leads back to the main point where selective high schools are looking for well-rounded students beyond just academics, because it's not very hard to perform very well in terms of academics, but it's hard to do well in both in terms of extracurricular and academics. This is the essence of being a student. In Girraween High School, when I joined in year 11, after doing the test in years 8, 9, and finally year 10, within 3 to 6 months, I actually became vice captain of the school, because the students at that school, as well as the people in my grade, instantly saw that I was engaged in terms of the school's activities. I was responsive in terms of hearing out any students' concerns, and I was just chatting with everyone that I knew. I didn't have a set friends that I only hanged out with. Everyone knew that they could reach out to me for any reason, which is why I became that. I think this also leads on to one of the benefits of trying to transfer into a selective high school, is because as you are trying to participate in these extracurricular activities and you're trying to be excellent in these activities, it will naturally change you into becoming a better student and person overall. If I wasn't actively looking to increase my odds in making it into Girraween High School, I probably wouldn't have gone outside of my comfort zone and joined some of the extracurricular activities that I ended up joining. But whether or not I did make it in or not, I was quite happy in the fact that I did join into a bunch of different things, and I ultimately became a more braver and extroverted person compared to who I was previously. A ballpark figure in terms of the quantity of extracurricular activities would be around 5 as the minimum, but personally I had 10 to 15 activities that I was actively part of. Whether it be part of the recycling committee, volunteering at the public school in the morning, and morning tea and providing morning tea, or even joining the SRC. That was just a few of the things that I was personally involved in. I was just so involved in so many initiatives because I wanted to be in the best position possible to transfer. And this is the same mindset that you have to adopt if you also want to transfer into one of these selective high schools. Lastly, for academic achievements, this can include NAPLAN, which would be the last 2 NAPLAN reports you did, even if they were from primary school. For anyone looking to transfer into a selective high school, if you're not in the top 2 bands in NAPLAN across all the different exams, that it is a bit of an indication that you should probably not look into transferring. This is because the NAPLAN test is an exam that every student in Australia completes, whether they are from a highly academic school or if they are in a very low academic school. Despite it now being online based on the questions you get correct and incorrect, so it is a bit adaptive, students at selective schools generally do not have to prepare for it at all and still perform very well. Beyond this, it can also be seen as subject specific. Classes for most subjects would also receive an award at the end of the year, which was the case at Penrith High School. So with about 5 classes for English, there will be around 10 students who receive an English or Excellence in English award, including myself, who would typically receive that every year. There were also other students who would get more than 1 award across different subjects, but that wasn't really me. I typically only got it for English, which is totally fine. So see what is available at your current school and see whether there are academic achievement awards that you can take advantage of. Whether it's an academic excellence award at your particular school, see what you can actually receive. I went to school with very smart people and I was quite proud of actually achieving that award. If you attend a school that has something quite similar, you want to attain these awards as part of your application for the internal academic achievements that you can showcase. In terms of external academic achievements, this will include high scores and awards in competitions. They are not affiliated with the school, but at times the school can help students who are looking to participate in it. This applies to ICAST competitions, the Australian Maths competition or the AMC, and the Olympiad. There are a whole bunch more competitions that you can be actively involved in, but they're the ones that I personally did when I was younger, and I liked it because they provided a certificate. You should only be doing competitions and participating in extracurricular activities if there is a certificate or proof that you actually did it. Getting a coach or your teacher or your parent to say that you've actually been involved in this won't really work, because in the past, students have tried to forge documentation. Schools are double checking these and ensuring that they're actually legitimate. Therefore, make sure you sign up to reputable competitions and engage in proper activities that will actually count in the transferring process if you are looking to transfer into a selective high school, if that's your primary goal. Also note, they are looking for academic achievements. So getting a participation will not count for the application, because you need to show that you have excelled in it, not just have signed up and participated in it. I hope that I've made it clear that although supporting documentation in many ways is easier than the actual exam like the HAST test, as you can prepare over time, it still has its own unique challenges. Consistency over a long period of time for some students can be tough, and for those who are not willing to put in the effort, they will fluctuate in terms of the report marks and the engagement in extracurricular activities. Every subject is important, but English, math and science are subjects that are even more important, as some of these concepts you will learn in junior high school will become foundations for year 11 and 12 as well. Be disciplined and work hard over a long period of time and you will reap the rewards. If you are looking to just work hard for 6 months, then slack off and then work hard again, you will generally not succeed, as it will be reflected in your reports as well. The more you sustainably work and study, the more results you will receive. This ethos or mindset will apply to everything in life. To make a great application, be sure to work closely with your tutor, as they are able to guide you in the right direction and help remind you about this importance and the goal that you're trying to achieve. Finding someone who's very knowledgeable about the process will be immensely beneficial, increasing your odds, especially if it is such a competitive process like transferring into a selective school. And it's a lot more tighter in terms of the number of spots available compared to the Year 6 exam in terms of the number of positions available. Doing tutoring is not necessary at all if you're already smart and tick all the elements that I've talked about. I know we do a pretty good job here at Bings Academy in terms of preparing students looking to transfer in both the HAST test and the supporting documentation portion of the application. However, with anything that involves money and time and your kids, please research if there's anyone out there who's better than us, as I do not want you to just sign up and feel disappointed, especially as time is incredibly valuable. If there is someone better than us out there, you have to go to them instead. Group tutoring places are typically going to be too generic, too slow to adapt, and will generally not be going over a question in depth enough for students to really understand and improve. Although that is just my opinions as a student who attended group tutoring for many years during primary school with very little improvements or progress to show for it. I make these videos to share my thoughts and my knowledge so you can make an informed decision for your children. In conclusion, this is a comprehensive video going through the different aspects that are involved in terms of the supporting documentation aspects for students looking to transfer into a selective school in years 8 to 11. I went through the school report, extracurricular activities, and the internal external academic achievements, which all play a critical role as part of the application process. Please keep in mind again to check out the individual school's website for specific details, as every school has slightly different requirements. What is required at Girion High School will be different to Baulkham Hills High School, and what is required at Baulkham Hills High School will be different to James Roos, and so forth. If you enjoyed this type of video, do let me know, as I am thinking about making another type of video such as this one that will cover the report and the score in the HAST test of an actual student who managed to transfer into a top selective high school. But this video obviously has to do well. It will have to depend on the likes and comments. So make sure to like this video if you haven't already. Comment down below if you like this, or if you have another idea that you want me to kind of cover. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.